Welcome, everyone. My name is Stephen Peck. I'm the founder and president of Green Roofs for Healthy Cities. We're the industry association that's been working for about 20 years to develop the green roof and wall industries across North America. We do that through a variety of different means. We have an online training portal called the Living Architecture Academy, which has a whole bunch of courses, including our GRP, our Green Roof Professional designation, which requires that you pass an exam and you get provide CUs and so forth, so you can practice in the industry. We publish a magazine called the Living Architecture Monitor magazine on a quarterly basis. It's in its 23rd year, where we track all kinds of cool developments around the world around living architecture. We have an awards program. We run symposia events. We've got an event coming up in August on blue-green infrastructure. You can check that out at greenroofs.org. And we do advocacy, and advocacy is really important because advocacy helps us overcome some of the barriers to implementing green roofs that exist in the marketplace. And one of those barriers is the higher first cost of a green roof relative to a dark roof. There's obviously a lot more materials and labor involved in doing a green roof, but there's a lot of benefits, and those benefits come down the road typically. They aren't up front. So that first cost barrier is often an issue that we have to overcome, and we can do that through public policy. We've been successful at working with a number of cities around North America to have policies instituted that support green roofs. Toronto, New York, San Francisco, Portland, Oregon, most recently Cambridge, Massachusetts, all have very supportive policies to bring green roofs into the built form in their cities with all the public benefits that they bring. This is the first time we've ever tried to do something at the federal government level in the United States. Nydia Velazquez, a congresswoman from Brooklyn, long-serving congresswoman, had introduced a bill to us a year ago and asked us for our input. And the bill is focused on, is HR 1863, and it's focused on providing financial support for the design, implementation, and maintenance of green roofs on public schools, junior public schools throughout the United States in underserved neighborhoods. So it has very strong environmental, ecological, and social benefits behind it. And we're in a battle right now to try to get it implemented as part of President Biden's plans for infrastructure throughout the United States. And today we're going to hear a little bit more about this bill. First, we're going to hear from Nydia Velazquez. Next slide, please, Emma. And Nydia Velazquez is going to talk to us a little bit about the bill. Then we're going to look at some of the cost and benefits and implications with Rohan Lilauwala with the Green Infrastructure Foundation. We used a cost-benefit calculator to do analysis of the impact of the bill. And then we're going to get right into the nitty-gritty with a wonderful case study with a fantastic teacher named Vicki Sando from New York, who's been living and breathing a green roof in New York City for the past several years. And she's going to share with us some of the benefits and perspectives of the students. There's going to be an opportunity for Q&A as well. You can ask questions at the bottom of your screen. And then we're going to wrap it up with Emma Tamlin, who's going to talk to us about what we can do to help pull ourselves together, work as a team, and try to get this bill passed and made into law in the U.S. Congress. So without any further ado, Emma, I'll turn it over to you. And if you could bring up Nydia Velazquez, that would be wonderful. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Hi, I am Congresswoman Nydia Velazquez, and I'm proud to represent New York 7th Congressional District, which includes parts of Brooklyn, Manhattan, and Queens. We are living in a monumental period, a time where there is a global call to action to address three converging crises: the COVID-19 pandemic and the resulting economic crisis, the climate emergency, and extreme inequality. Green infrastructure policy plays an important role in tackling this crisis. As we work towards reopening our communities, recovery plans must include green infrastructure investments. That is exactly why I have introduced a bill called the Public School Green Roof Program. Under this program, The government will provide money for the installation and maintenance of green roof systems. Green roofs are a sustainable method of improving a building's carbon footprint, protecting our biodiversity, and contain tremendous opportunities for teaching the next generation about sustainable living. Children in urban areas like New York City will have the chance to see these practices firsthand, an opportunity they are not often afforded. Plus, the bill incentivizes hiring the local workforce and prioritizes low-income communities. So thank you to all the advocacy groups and activists who are rallying support on the ground for this legislation. I can assure you, I will continue to champion this issue in Congress. Thank you so very much.
Thank you very much, Emma, for that. Thank you, Nydia Velazquez, for bringing this bill to Congress and working with us. We're working with Monica Garay and her office to move this bill forward. A little bit more detail about the bill is forthcoming now. I'm going to ask Rohan Lilauwala to take over the screen and share with you the results of our cost benefit analysis. We've been using this cost benefit tool now for about 6 years to look at integrated green roof and wall and other forms of green infrastructure, looking at the social and economic, the monetary benefits of green infrastructure implementation. So over to you, Rohan.
Thanks, Stephen. Can you see my screen and hear me? Okay.
Yep.
Great. I think the title of our presentation really sums up the results of our analysis. And we found that green roofs on public schools are an exceptional infrastructure investment. Just a little bit about our organizations before we go into some of this detail. For those of you who are unfamiliar, Green Roofs for Healthy Cities is a nonprofit industry association working to grow the green roof and wall industry throughout North America. And important to this bill, GRC has developed and continues to manage the Green Roof Professional Accreditation, which supports excellence and best practices in the design, installation, and maintenance of green roofs. Our sister organization, or charitable arm, is the Green Infrastructure Foundation. The Green Infrastructure Foundation is a 501c3 charitable organization, and it partners with communities to shape healthy, resilient, and sustainable places using living green infrastructure. And also relevant to this bill, GIF has developed and currently manages the Living Architecture Performance Tool, which is a rating system designed to certify that green roofs and walls can achieve measurable and replicable performance benefits so that they can be funded, designed, installed, and maintained with a higher degree of confidence. And a little bit about this bill. As you just heard from Nydia Velazquez, this bill, HR 1863, was introduced by her in this current Congress. She is the representative from New York's 7th District. And HR 1863 proposes to spend $500 million over 4 years on green roofs. And the way that breaks down is $100 million for planning. And this includes things like feasibility analysis, structural analysis of buildings, cost estimation, planning, design, kind of the whole gamut of the pre-installation phase. It includes $300 million for installation of green roofs and $100 million for maintenance. And the idea is that green roofs would be planned, installed, and maintained on public schools across the country. The bill would live and be administered by the Department of Energy. Important for the green roof industry is that the bill requires that projects meet the standards of the Living Architecture Performance Tool. And what that means is the green roofs being planned, installed, and maintained as part of the public school green rooftop program would be done so in accordance with consensus-based, industry-driven best practices. So these green roofs are going to be built to the highest possible standard. And project teams are required to feature at least one accredited green roof professional. So once again, quality control on these projects is going to be extremely high. The bill also encourages local workforce trainees, as well as the hiring of low-income individuals. And it encourages access to these green roofs for the public, the community, as well as encouraging ADA accessible green space on the roof. So for those of you who might be unfamiliar with green roofs, a green roof is contained green space on top of a human-made structure. It is not as simple as simply plants and soil on top of a roof. They are highly engineered systems designed to protect the building and the roof from the intrusion of water from aggressive plant roots and so on. And they are designed to provide a structure and nutrients for healthy vegetation. This graphic illustrates some of the various layers that go into a green roof. And what are some of the benefits of green roofs? I think that every time we start to list the benefits of green roofs, our list goes into the 50s and 60s and 70s. But some of the really important benefits of green roofs, as far as this bill is concerned, accrue to school districts. And these benefits include educational opportunities in STEM for students. Students have the chance to integrate classes like biology, math, physics, technology, engineering in everyday activities on the green roof. And I'm sure that Vicki Sando will speak to some of these opportunities soon. It also offers access to places for physical activity and also quiet reflection for students. Green roofs can also increase the lifespan of roofs from an average of 17 years for a conventional roof to 40 plus years for a green roof. Green roofs have a long and well-researched record of reducing energy costs and increasing HVAC lifespans. And when you consider the reduced energy costs, the increased lifespan of HVAC systems, and the increased lifespan of roof membranes, you find that buildings have reduced long-term operational costs when they feature green roofs. Roofs that grow food also have the opportunity to provide access to fresh, healthy food for school districts and the potential for food cost savings. And green roofs also provide an excellent platform for green job training and workforce development for students, especially those in high school. But the benefits of green roofs are not just limited to school districts. These benefits extend to communities at large. One of the really important benefits for communities is the opportunity to reduce the urban heat island effect. The urban heat island effect disproportionately affects low-income communities and people of color. An article in The Guardian recently found that low-income communities that feature larger proportions of people of color can be up to 20 degrees hotter in the summer compared to wealthier, whiter neighborhoods. Air quality also tends to be lower in poorer communities of color. Green roofs offer an opportunity to improve air quality, both by reducing the urban heat island effect, which has a direct impact on air quality, as well as by directly capturing particulate matter and pollutants in plant leaves. Green roofs can also improve stormwater management and improve the water quality of receiving water bodies, an extremely important benefit. There's also plenty of research that shows that green roofs increase property values and provide neighborhood stabilization benefits, especially in poorer low-income communities. By reducing energy, green roofs can also reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Additionally, plants also directly sequester carbon. Green roofs can also provide habitat for birds, bees, and other pollinators, improving biodiversity in our urban areas. They can also provide access to green space for the community and fresh, healthy food for the community. And finally, green roofs have the ability to create green jobs and increase local, state, and federal tax revenue as a result. So why do we conduct our analysis? Well, I think one of the largest reasons is that the benefits of green roofs tend to be well known and documented. I think you're not going to find a lot of people that will argue that green roofs capture stormwater or improve air quality, but these benefits are often not measured and often not valued. And when a business case or an economic analysis is not completed, quality investments are often missed, policy does not achieve its intended outcomes, and resources are often misallocated. So we conducted an analysis of HR 1863, and we used the proprietary green infrastructure cost benefit matrix that we developed at the Green Infrastructure Foundation, and we've continued to refine over the past several years. And our methodology is based on several steps of data aggregation and simplification so that we can do large-scale analysis of large-scale implementation. It's not, we're not at a granular level. We're not looking at project-specific implementation, but our methodology is well suited to an aggregate analysis of a large-scale policy like the one laid out in HR 1863. As with any analysis, we've used a number of assumptions. Our assumptions can be found in our report at greenroofs.org/HR 1863, and you can see the detailed results there. We looked at a 50-year timeframe. We've accounted for inflation. We've discounted future cash flows, and our analysis led to several results. We found that the investments in the bill would lead to the construction of 14 million square feet of green roofs just with federal funds. And obviously, if states and local governments match funds or provide additional funds, we can see significantly more green roofs built. And we found that those green roofs would retain 154 million gallons of stormwater annually, sequester 537 tons of carbon directly just in the plants and soil, and reduce energy consumption by 10.7 million kilowatt hours. And here is the net present value shown in chart form. And you can see the benefits are above the zero on the y-axis, and the costs are below the zero on the y-axis. And the kind of top line results that we found were that over the 50-year time frame, the investments in this program would generate a net benefit of $183 million. And that's $183 million in 2021 dollars. Once again, future cash flows are discounted. And this provides a combined 7.3% rate of return. So it's an excellent investment based on the benefits accruing to both school districts and the community. And when we break down the recipients of these benefits, we find $378 million in benefits to school districts over 50 years. And these benefits are in reduced building energy use, increased rooftop lifespan, and rooftop food production. And $264 million in community benefits over 50 years from things like stormwater management, urban heat island reduction, improved air quality, increased biodiversity, and greenhouse gas sequestration. And I think a really important caveat of our analysis is that we've captured essentially all of the costs of green roof planning, maintenance, installation, but we've only captured a small slice of the benefits. Our analysis doesn't quantify the educational opportunities of green roofs for students, or the value of recreational space, or the improved health associated with both more green space, more access to healthy food, more access to nature. So we've only captured a slice of the benefits, and because we've captured only a small amount of the benefits, but most of the costs, our analysis is extremely conservative. It's extremely cautious. I think capturing more benefits would find a significantly stronger case for green roof investment. This case is already fairly strong, and quantifying and monetizing some of the other benefits would really push the needle even further. Now, another really important benefit of green roofs, as mentioned, is green job creation. Planning, installation, and maintenance of green roofs can create many local living wage jobs that are meaningful. And many of these jobs do not require advanced qualifications. and they are ideal for workforce development and job training programs. Green roofs also create many downstream jobs, and some of these jobs are in rural areas as well. It's not just jobs in urban communities. These jobs include things like staff at nurseries, in soil blending, in product manufacturing, and so on. And our analysis found that the investments in HR 1863 would create 5,570 direct job years in construction and maintenance. Now, a job year is one person employed full-time for 1 year. And it's a figure we use because it's easy to compare one-time jobs in construction with ongoing jobs in maintenance. But economists and researchers have determined that direct jobs created have what you call an employment multiplier. And an employment multiplier refers to indirect and induced jobs created as a result of each direct job. And there's lots of research on this topic, and some of the figures that we found are that this employment multiplier, the number of indirect and induced jobs created as a result of direct jobs, ranges by industry from 2.26 in construction to 9.57 in utilities. And a team from the London School of Economics has determined that the employment multiplier for green jobs is 4.2. And based on that number, our analysis finds that over 23,000 indirect and induced job years will be created as a result of this program, leading to a total of 29,000 total direct, indirect, and induced job years created over a 50-year period. So a massive potential job creation impact as a result of this bill. And I think that the economics, as well as the job creation potential, really leads to green roofs showing themselves as an exceptional infrastructure investment. An investment of this nature in green roofs will provide tangible and measurable benefits for both school districts and the communities in which they are situated. And some of these intangible benefits, once again, that we haven't measured, could be even more important. Educational opportunities for students, environmental justice, providing green space in low-income communities of color that don't have access to green space, developing the next generation green workforce, creating more resilient schools in a post-COVID world where there is outdoor learning space and outdoor recreational space, and providing important infrastructure investments that can create jobs in the long term, green growth, and reconcile the built and natural environments. And if you have any additional questions about our analysis or our results, you can visit greenroofs.org/HR1863 to read the full report. It explains our methodology and assumptions. Or you can contact me. My email address is on the slide there. If you have any detailed questions, I'm glad to chat about any of the work we've been doing here. Thanks, and I'll pass it back over to Stephen.
Thanks a lot, Rohan. Great presentation. Hey, does anybody have any questions for Rohan? You can put your questions in the Q&A box.
So I do see a question there,
Yep.
Stephen.
Yep.
The question is, how many schools do you estimate could participate? How many green roofs could be built out with these funds? So based on our analysis, we found 14 million square feet of green roofs. And obviously green roof sizes could range on schools, but I think a good ballpark estimate would be between 5,000 and 10,000 square feet for a recreational green roof on a school. And with those numbers, we're looking at between 1,400 and 2,800 individual green roofs installed on schools. And that could range depending on, if we're looking at bigger or smaller green roofs, or if, once again, if states and local governments put up matching funds.
Yep, yep. So it's a bit of a guesstimate because we don't know exactly how big. So the range is definitely the right way to go about doing it. Next question, do we have any information on food quality in highly polluted areas? One of the things about food grown on green roofs is that you have control over the growing medium that's used. A lot of the problems with polluted food comes from the nature of the soils it grows in, particularly if there are heavy metals present. And there's a lot of control of the inputs into food production on rooftops, which help overcome the pollution, a lot of the pollution issues that stem from the problem of having polluted soils. So not quite the same issue, and you really need to do soil. If you're going to grow food in the ground in any urban area, you really must do soil testing, and a lot of the times we see raised beds being used off the soil for that purpose. So we can't really give you any general information about that other than some of those principles. What are the current barriers right now being faced? I mentioned, if I may, Rohan, I mentioned the first cost barrier. A lot of education school boards, they don't have the funding available to implement new technologies like green roofs. Well, green roofs have been around for a long time, but some of the more progressive sustainable technologies, they don't have the funds available to do that. And what's cool about this program is that it has funding for the design phase with the expertise up front. It has implementation funding, and it has maintenance funding, which is really important as well. I think that's going to be important. Do you have anything else you want to add, Rohan?
Yeah, I think that one of the big maintenance challenges with schools is that often summer is when school is out, maintenance staff availability is much lower. There's not the type of staff required to maintain a green roof around all summer. So one of the great things about this bill is the dedicated stream of maintenance funding to pay for that year-round maintenance. And we've seen some really excellent examples of green roofs on schools. There's a couple I can think of where they grow food on schools, and they leverage funding into hiring students to help maintain the roof in the summer to help grow food on the roof. So I think there's lots of really great opportunities to link education with food production, with job training, with maintenance of the green roof.
Right. When you start growing food on a roof, and make it available to the children to take home with them, or in the community, it elevates the whole social and economic benefit profile of a green roof quite significantly. Next question, would there be outreach to rural schools to encourage them to propose green roofs? Not sure if we can respond to that. That's a kind of a program implementation detail that's not covered in the bill right now, but the focus is would be on schools in underserved neighborhoods. So if there was an underserved neighborhood, there'd be no reason why a rural school wouldn't be eligible for this funding.
Yeah, maybe we could move on, Stephen, so that we could come back to any other questions at the end of the session.
Yes, and we'll come back to your last question here, Susan, about barriers to getting the legislation passed. And Emma, we'll talk a little bit more about what can be, what we need everyone to do on this call to help us get this legislation passed. So thanks a lot, Rohan. Thank you very much for those questions, everybody. I'd like to now invite Vicki Sando, who's an elementary school teacher in New York, who has lived and breathed a green roof over the course of COVID. She's a fantastic advocate for this particular bill and for green roofs in general. And thank you very much, Vicki, for being with us and sharing your experiences today. Over to you.
Absolutely. Thanks so much. So I have a little presentation. Thank you. So as Steve mentioned, Vicki Sando, I'm at PS 41 in Greenwich Village in Manhattan. And just a little bit of background about me. I was originally a parent there. Both my kids went to school and graduated many years ago. And I initially proposed a school garden, a lower level school garden, because they really didn't have any green space for kids to interact with. That was in 2003. And based on the success of that, I kind of looked at the rooftop. I was wondering what was up there. We had this massive roof where nobody went, and pitched the idea to our principal, Kelly Shannon, and she was in favor of it. So this was in 2006. It took us 4 years of planning and 2 years of construction, because it was the first green roof constructed by School Construction Authority. So they basically own and manage all public schools in New York City. So it was a long haul, but we finally opened to students in 2012. There's a little shot of it. So today I'm just going to go over a little bit about the roof, our benefits, curriculum. I'll show you some of the surveys that I've done and just my contact information. So here's a wide view of the roof. It's roughly 18,000 square feet. It's an extensive green roof. It's live roof modular system. And it cost $2.4 million, which is not cheap. But as you will see, and there's been multiple benefits from it. Half the roof is occupied by students, and then the other half is, just the green space. So here's Energy Star Portfolio Manager screenshot. So you can see the baseline, where it's, I'm just going to move this chat so I can see a little bit better. So you can see how it's really impacted the building's energy usage. So the baseline was, I believe, 2008. And this is a 2018 snapshot. So, energy reduction. I mean, you just look at the green on there, we're talking, 37.20% reduction, greenhouse gas reduction, 35.30%. I mean, it's really astounding how much of an impact the roof has made on the building's energy use and greenhouse gas emission reduction. So as Rohan was stating that, there is an upfront cost, but over time, the school is saving money, the school district is saving money. So it's quite substantial. Next slide. It's also reduced our stormwater runoff. So about 9,000 square feet of education. This was an unscientific study, but we kind of calculated it was 182,250 gallons of stormwater annually. This is beneficial during significant rainstorms because New York City has a combined sewer overflow. And as we've seen with our climate emergency right now, this is happening quite frequently in New York. We actually had a massive rainstorm last night. So all that sewage goes into the waterways. So more green roofs will definitely help with this. So how do we use the roof? So what we do is we leave it up to teachers. I've given them curriculum suggestions, and I've actually published a green roof curriculum guidebook, which I'll send you the link later, I'll post it later. But we use it for multiple subjects: science, STEM, ELA math, mapping, art, movement, mindfulness, and after school clubs. Here's just a couple shots. So the kids can go up on the roof. These were just some scientific studies. And the one they were looking for monarch butterfly larvae and eggs. They love just lifting up the pavers and seeing what kind of arthropods are under there. They've had journals with scientific studies where they observe the green roof over time. These are some of their observations. We have a fantastic art teacher. She takes them up to draw the skyline. I became a STEM teacher at the school. I just retired this year. And I did many projects where, whether it was building bird feeders, we built models of the school. This was inside the classroom, so you can bring that knowledge even indoors when maybe the weather isn't as great, but we were doing engineering studies. We built models of the school and of green roofs. So you can really use the green roof for many, many things. This is just an example of how teachers signed up. So this was this past year. And, of course, it was really an extraordinary year and a half for teachers and administrators. At PS 41, we had to follow New York City social distancing regulations. So students were really in their classroom all day. And the only chance they got to go outside was really one period throughout the school day. So the green roof was available immediately in September. Teachers sign up to use the green roof. And it just this chart on the left just gives you a little bit of example. We have some lower level areas, which kind of opened up later. But the green roof by far was the preferred choice. I think in some way because it was up outside, up elevated, and it's a contained but larger area. So students had the ability to get movement and run around, but they were surrounded by plants, and teachers really appreciated that. Plus they love it too, which you will see. This is just a little video. I don't know if it'll work, but the teachers are really stressing just movement this year, independent reading. I don't think they really wanted to pile on additional curriculum up there, just because kids were just under so much stress. But it just gave them this opportunity to be outside, really immersed in nature. So every year I do a survey to just get the feedback on how students like the green roof, things that they really stick out to them. So on the left, this was this year's survey, and I wanted to really dive into how do they feel on the green roof compared to the playground. The survey on the right side was in previous years, but again, you can really see, calm. They're really interested in the plants and nature. So you get really all kinds of reactions, some good feedback. So I surveyed 160 students. This is just a little snapshot of the different feedback that they gave me. So again, how do you feel on the green roof? You can just really see good, safe, calm, happy. They're really the predominant feedback that I received. Favorite things, to run, they really wanted to socialize and play, even though it was outside, but a lot of it was looking at the plants, looking for insects. These are very consistent input that comes from students year after year. So this was a brief survey that I gave to teachers. It was a very small response rate just because teachers were not up to really doing anything more than the piles of work they had to do. But again, this emotional well-being from being up on the green roof was really important. And for teachers as well. I mean, teachers were equally stressed from the massive amounts of work they had to do this year. So just being outside in nature was equally important to them. So I wanted to compare the green roof to the lower level playground. And what I found in the surveys was just the excitement of the playground. While some students wanted that, it was very stressful for other students. And I really believe that educational green roofs need to have some mindfulness component in them. I mean, it's built in, but to really focus on that, whether it's for counseling, de-stressing students when maybe they're having a bad day. But it's really important going forward, considering we're still in this pandemic. So there's always one kid who likes the pool and the television. But what I did notice in the years that I've been giving this survey is really how the green roof just becomes common to students because it's there on their building. I recall one student saying, the green roof is part of our family at PS 41. So installing green roofs on school buildings really gives children this awareness at a young age. And as they grow up into adulthood, it's very common for them. So I think it will just multiply green roofs on other types of buildings down the road. So I think that's really important. And well, this is a before shot. And then the next one is after. And, how can you say this is not better? But I just really want to close with, our children are inheriting a catastrophe, an environmental catastrophe. And we really need to give them tools to solve these monumental problems that they're inheriting. So educational green roofs will give them that opportunity to learn sustainability, STEM, all these wonderful things, reconnect to nature, and really hopefully improve their lives in the future. So next slide, if you want to contact me, there's my email. And yes, I have loads of other information on educationalgreenroofs.org. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Vicki. I didn't know until just then how long you've been at it, since 2006. So
I'm old.
You're a dog with a bone.
Yes. Well, I want to focus on this now. I feel like this is really important. That's really why I retired from teaching, to just promote educational green roofs. So
fantastic. And you have both a guidebook, that guidebook that you have available. Do you want to put it in the chat?
I can, and I actually published a book, a children's book. So the link is up there. There was no children's books about green roofs. So again, you can find that information. But yes, I'll probably have to. If you go to educational green roofs, there's a link to curriculum. There's all kinds of curriculum on there, so it's a bit easier.
Okay, great. And it's fabulous to see, not only the green roof and its stormwater and energy benefits for the school, but how you've been able to share all the other aspects, in terms of the children and their learning and their mental and physical well-being.
Absolutely.
Just tremendous. It's great that you're documenting it, and thank you very much for all that you do. Does anybody have any questions they would like to share with Vicki now that we've got her on the phone here? There's one about how tall the outer fences on the top of the roof are.
Oh, great question. So typically they have to be 8 feet, I believe 8 to 10. We were able to go a little lower because it's an elementary school, and then it has a kicker on the top. So I'm blanking on the name of the fence company. It's a 3D kind of trellis fence. It was quite expensive. We're in a landmark area, so we kind of wanted a fancier fence. But since it has that kicker on the top, so kids can't climb over it, we were able to go, I believe it's about 8 feet. But yeah, the School Construction Authority has all kinds of requirements. And I would say most of the money for the green roof went for the infrastructure to make it safe for children. The plants, the modular trays was the least cost of it. So,
really? So the what was it?
It's roughly 2.4 million.
So of the 2.4 million spent, the bulk of that money was safety related.
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes. And I'm seeing here a great question about ADA.
Yeah.
So we were able to get an elevator waiver. If we did not get the waiver, we would not have been able to do the project because we are a non-accessible school. We always have been. So to change it to a handicap accessible school, we would have had to put in a $4 million elevator. So we were able to get a waiver from the city when we changed the certificate of occupancy. Now, I just toured a school in Coney Island. They have a massive 19,000 square foot roof. They just received $6 million from their city council person. The school's PS 90. And part of it is to extend the elevator to the roof. They do have an elevator. So that's where some of the funding is going. So yeah, it's expensive for sure. But I think if schools, there's ways to get around some of the cost, whether it's making it partially accessible to smaller groups. You really have to look at each school individually. I mean, we have 1,500 school buildings in New York City, roughly, and they're all different. Some can hold extensive green roofs, some are intensive. So you really have to look at it as a case-by-case basis to really see what is possible.
Mm-hmm.
Our funding came from New York City Council funds because any work done on a New York City public school has to be city or state funds. So we were able to raise that money over those 4 years. We do pay for our maintenance through our PTA. So we have a maintenance contract. It's roughly $6,000 to $8,000 a year. We were able to reduce it a little bit this year. So maintenance is critical. I actually have a drip hose running through the roof now. So, I mean, again, there's ways to get around some of the cost. But yeah, long-term maintenance is an issue. And I've actually stayed on with the school as the green roof volunteer. So.
Do you use the roof when school's out of session, like in the summertime? Is there any functionality going on?
Great question. We actually have a YMCA that uses the camp, uses the school as a summer camp. They have not used the roof just because there's not as much oversight with the camp counselors. So it is not used in the summer. But again, when it's not in use, it's a wildlife habitat. I mean, we have hawks up there, kestrels, all kinds of native and migratory birds and insects. So it's doing that work even when it's not in session over the summer or in the winter, you know, cold months.
Right. So most of your fundraising, there's a fundraising question here. Did most of the fundraising come from then city sources? Is that our understanding?
Yes. Yeah, I was able to get some state funding, but it took really long. I was warned and we really didn't get it in time. So School Construction Authority fronted us the money, but then, you know, any city construction project is really like 2/3 more expensive than what it would be privately. It's expensive working with any city project. So they were able to get the money. I do feel now, since ours was really the first that was built, prices might be a little cheaper, but I don't know, I wouldn't count on it.
So I'm assuming you qualified for the elevator waiver because you were already not ADA compliant. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's
Okay.
correct.
Any last questions for Vicki before we say thank you very much? Enjoy the rest of your summer, and thanks so much for your wonderful work and your presentation. Any other questions for Vicki? So please put your stuff up again. Make sure it's in the chat so that everybody can see where to go and get your fabulous book. I was really blown away when I read that your wonderful book about green roofs and children. It's very pretty. It's very beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
And also Vicki's been helping us reach out to teaching organizations to try to see if we can get more support from teachers that are focused on environmental and sustainability and education to try to get this bill passed. And someone asked a question earlier about what do we need to get this bill passed. So with that, I'd like to invite Emma Tamlin to come and join us and talk a little bit about what we've been doing, the program that we've been running in partnership with people like Vicki and other organizations to try to muster enough support to make sure that this bill makes it into the reconciliation legislation that's being developed right now. Thanks, Vicki, very much for your time. And Emma, would you join us, please?
Yes, hello everyone. So thank you, Rohan, Vicki, and Stephen for leading us through that information session on the bill. So as you can see, it is really an incredible policy that we would really like to see passed, but there's a number of things that need to happen before we can get it passed by Congress, and we also need to drum up some attention for it. So there's a few things that you can do. So if you haven't already, and we'll walk through this first step together after this, head to greenroofs.org/advocacy, and there's a really quick form there that you can fill out that sends a pre-filled email to your congressperson. You can make modifications to this email if you would like, but we want to make it as easy as possible. So if you just go through, put in your information, and then click send, it sends an email to your congressperson to let them know that you support this bill and that you think they should support it as well. If you have social media, definitely retweet and share our posts on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. That way you can get others in your network to fill out that form as well. Or you can make your own social media posts and encourage other people to head to greenroofs.org/advocacy to let their congressperson know. If you're working for an organization that would benefit from this bill or wants to support it, you can let us know and you can sign on as a formal co-signer to this bill, which just helps us when the Congresswoman Nydia Velazquez puts it in front of Congress to show that there are a number of private sector organizations that support this bill, and just helps further demonstrate its importance. And finally, if you are able to, we do have a GoFundMe set up, which I'll show next, to help us continue to work with the lobbyist team, because on one side of things, it is really important for individuals to let their congressperson know that they are really that they want to see this bill passed. But on the other side of things, we do work with a lobbyist so that the internal work at Congress is also being addressed, because a lot of important conversations happen there to help bills get passed as well. So we are going to, this is a quick overview of key congressional members. So before we go into the form that sends an email, if you are in any one of these areas and have these as as your congressional representative, these are the people that we really need to get in contact with and who we need to really send a lot of feedback to about this bill. So if this is your congressional person, we want to hear from you. We'd love to connect with you to figure out how we could get in contact with these representatives, and definitely requires you to send an email to them to let them know that this is important and that they should support it. So next, so as mentioned, if you go to greenroofs.org/advocacy, you're going to come to this page, which is where you can not only learn more about HR 1863, but you can send this form. So you're going to want to scroll and just fill out this form right here. And then when you click next, it'll take you to the pre-filled letter and you can just click send. So if you haven't done that already, please do this right now while you're on this call. It's really important that we send as many letters as possible. And if you do it, also send it to some family and friends who might be interested in supporting this as well. We really need as many people as possible. And then if you're interested, you can also go to our GoFundMe from this page. We're still in the process of raising money. There's a video there again of Vicki Sando at PS 41. And we'd love to have your support if you're able to as well, to help us reach our goal to be able to continue to pay the lobbyist to help us pass this bill, because as you can see, it will provide a lot of benefits that we haven't even yet quantified.
And that address requirement, Emma, That's just so that we can send their letter to the appropriate congressional representative, right? It just identifies who they're, when you fill that in, that's the purpose of that, right? Is to identify who their congressional representative is so that that letter goes to the right person. That's the purpose of it, correct?
Yeah, exactly. This form needs to know your address and your zip code, not only so it can send it to the right person, but also so your congressional representative can double check that you're actually a constituent, because sometimes they do that as well to make sure that they're not just getting emails from people that are not their constituent. So that is why that is included in there.
Great.
And that's it. That's all the ways that you can help us get this bill passed.
Thanks, Emma. Are there any questions about any of that? Anyone? So, you know, it's getting a bill through Congress these days is kind of like climbing Mount Everest without oxygen. It's not an easy task, and it takes a lot of endurance and patience and a lot of support. We really want to thank you all for joining us today. Please take a few minutes to pitch in to help reach out to your congressional representative. Particularly, let us know if you're in any of those priority districts, as Emma showed. And we've got we'll do our best to make sure that this bill gets implemented. It's a win for children. It's a win for the environment. It's a win for social equity. As Nydia Velazquez said, it's a really fantastic opportunity, and we're really going to work hard to continue to make sure that it comes into reality. I want to thank Rohan and Emma and Vicki for their time, and Blaine for your background support, and also invite you to check out our events. We have a really interesting symposia coming up on blue-green infrastructure if you're interested in stormwater and green infrastructure at the end of the month at greenroofs.org. Have a wonderful weekend, everybody. Enjoy the great outdoors, and we look forward to working with you and speaking with you soon. Thank you very much, and take care.